Call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A moment of silence for our first responders, please. Thank you. Please have a seat. If you have a cell phone, please shut it off or turn it on vibrate or silent.
Mayor, I'll go first. We'll go first. I'm sorry.
Roll call.
Karlovic.
Here.
Kramer. Here. Reichner.
Here.
Reese.
Here.
Eisner.
Okay, at this time I'd like to announce that we did hold a emergency executive session this evening immediately prior to the meeting concerning threatened new litigation.
City Administrator.
Are we allowed to
The
know
emergency
who it
work
is?
session.
Yes.
What's that?
Are we allowed to know?
I can't, no,
No.
unfortunately. I wish I could tell you, but I can't. By law, I'm not allowed.
Can you tell us what department?
What's that?
What about what department?
It's not about a department.
Okay, on February 5th, we had an emergency work session with the council members and myself. This was in regards to a change in the way we were funding the, a streets project and which grants we were using and how we were gonna shift that around it to the advantage of the city. In discussion with the council members, it was determined that we really didn't need to have a vote on it. We were just able to discuss it, and so it was really more for information and discussion purposes only.
Thank you. All right. A special proclamation for February. Whereas Black History Month is observed in February of each year to honor the contributions of African Americans. And whereas Black History Month is a call to each and every person to reflect on the cultural, scientific, political, and economic contributions of African Americans so that we remember the past and learn from it, so that we can build a better and more prosperous future for all. And whereas Black History Month is an occasion to rediscover the enduring stories of African Americans and the gifts of freedom, purpose, and opportunity they have bestowed on future generations. It is also a time to commemorate the countless contributions of African Americans, many of whom lived through segregation, racial prejudice, and discrimination. And whereas during Black History Month, all are encouraged to reflect on past challenges and successes of African Americans in order to improve our society so that we all live up to the ideals of freedom, equality, and justice. And now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Kurt Karlovic, being mayor of the city of Sunbury, county of Northumberland, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, on behalf of the city of Sunbury council members and citizens, do hereby declare the month of February 2019 as Black History Month. I make that into a motion to accept the proclamation. Do I have a second?
Karlovic.
Yes.
Kramer.
Yes.
Reichner.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Eisner.
Yes.
Thank you. Make a motion to approve the minutes of January 14, 2019, and the reports of the Fire Department, Police Department, Treasurer, Controller, Engineer, Code Office, Health Department, and the Redevelopment Authority. Do I have a second?
Kramer.
Yes.
Reichner.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Eisner.
Yes.
Karlovic.
Yes. Are there any audience comments, or is there any audience comment on agenda items only at this time? Please stand and approach the podium.
Is it only me?
Regina Russell, Democratic Committeewoman, Ward 2. I apologize if I was not here when I asked this question to know the answer. In regards to the community cats ordinance, I'm hoping that it includes something that helps the homeowner from having neighbors' cats invade their properties. The cats roam the streets, they come on your property when they don't live there, and I don't know if the ordinance will include anything like that, and can something like that be included, because they're not getting licenses from what I understand. It's not a required thing for them to have licenses.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any more audience comment? Councilman Reichner?
This cat ordinance, Mr. Russell, is nothing more than that we're telling the SPCA and a group of citizens here that we don't have a problem with them trapping, neutering, and returning them. That's all that it is. I said, we're just saying it's okay with us. So some people, the SPCA, I think, can do like 100 cats a year, if I'm not mistaken, and there was, between them and a group of individuals here, they're going to be trapping them and doing what all this ordinance is, or the addition to this ordinance is that we're okay with them doing that, and they needed that before they would come in and do that.
And I appreciate that. I asked the question because someone poisoned a cat that ended up dying on my property. And so therefore, I have to clean that up to get rid of that horrible odor of a dead cat. And that's the reason I'm asking that question.
We have nothing in this at all other than saying we're okay with the SPCA and this group of people trapping them, neutering them, and returning them to their location.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, now, I'm not gonna read this again. If anybody wants this article, they can get it from Jolene in the office. But I make a motion, this is the second time, I make a motion that we accept the ordinance, community cats, ordinance number 656, to enable the SPCA and these individuals to come in and trap, neuter, and or spay, and return the cats to their locations.
Ister,
Yes.
Karlovic,
No.
Kramer,
Yes.
Reichner,
Yes.
Reese,
All right, Councilman Ister, CES engineer.
CES, they were billed for $135.07. I'd like to make a motion to pay that.
Second.
Thank you.
Kramer,
Yes.
Reichner,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Ister,
Yes.
Karlovic.
Yes. Councilman Ister.
New Year's Eve. Parks and Rec had a meeting the other evening, and we were discussing a lot of things, and New Year's Eve came up. And at that meeting, there was a couple of suggestions made how we could take and accomplish it without blocking off 4th Street and all the market for that evening and the next day because of the situation. We used to be in the intersection, 4th and Market. So some ideas were passed around, but the main thing was who was going to be taking over. And I asked Mr. Mayor to be willing to take that challenge on. We discussed it the other evening, the other day,
Yes.
put a committee together. And I have some names that I already spoke to. Of course, Chris's department helps, my department helps, and we'll take and make a list of what has to get done. Jolene, you know some of it, what's going on. And we basically moving everything towards the park, utilizing the park again, be in the gazebo. The hospitality tent would be between the park and 3rd Street in that area there. Fireworks would be at the other end, if everything works out there. And there'd be some food vendors in the park itself. We would have the children, as we had before, earlier hours. And the little kids would go home, of course, and the adults would show up, let's say at 8 o'clock, and then the party would begin from there. I think it'd be easier that way for everybody, and also accomplish a New Year's Eve. So that's something to look at. That was just the thought on the table. Jody was there, and I forget who all came up with some good ideas there, because it really simplified the whole operation. Because some of our problem was tearing down the tent, opening the street up the next morning. They couldn't get people to come out because most of those guys that work in the tent crews are young and they're out celebrating. Nobody wants to give up their New Year's Eve to tear down our tents at midnight, or not midnight, but 1 o'clock in the morning. So I'd like to ask you to do that, sir.
I'd be honored.
Well, thank you. Takes care of that issue.
Ms. Ocker?
Yes. Recently, it came to my attention that, particularly in February month, as people are gathering signatures for petitions in order to run for office, but really it happens any time of the year where people might be soliciting to sell something for a nonprofit or whatever it is. It can be disruptive to our employees when they're at work, or they might feel pressured if they're being asked by someone who might be an authority over them. So there actually is, I was asked if there could be a policy on solicitation for city employees, and actually in our city employee handbook, there is already a solicitation and distribution policy whereby employees may not solicit on City of Sunbury property or use city facilities, such as their email, voicemail, or bulletin boards during work time for solicitation. And also it prevents unauthorized personnel from soliciting employees while they are at work or or in their workplace. And so this is just a reminder that that policy is actually in place, and that if we have not been enforcing it in the past, we will be enforcing that from now on. That's all I have on that. Any questions?
And the policy update.
Yes. So that brings us to, in looking through the employee policy manual, many of the policies require maybe authorization or permission from the mayor or something, and it doesn't include the city administrator in the policy. So what I would like to do is go through the city policies and at the minimum just insert my role and authority in the policies, and that way it takes some of the pressure off council members and the mayor for those Mother May I requests. And then I will also, while I'm doing that, take a look at updating the policies themselves. But of course, I won't make any changes to any policies until I've talked to the council.
Okay.
So I'm asking for your,
So, I guess because it's the policy, so I make a motion to allow Ms. Ocker to update her employee policy handbook.
One thing I would question, but wait until it's all done, all the changes are made, we won't be printing it more than once.
true.
So what you want to do is we'll give her authorization to insert that in where it's needed, but go through the whole policy and upgrade everything, update it,
Yes.
and then we'll have the whole thing reprinted, passed
Yes.
out to all the.
So what we can do is the interim policy is put me as the approver of requests and things like that as an interim policy, and then while I update the rest of it, and then we'll reprint the whole thing.
Okay, you want to make that formal motion?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Reichtner,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Eister,
Yes.
Karlovic,
Yes.
Kramer.
Yes.
It's still me. So the janitorial contract for the police department, and this building, second and third floors and the first floors, we were in negotiations with Suncom Industries, and the contract will be the same as it was in the previous year in 2018. And at the same time, they had proposed an increase of 3%, but they have reduced that, they've eliminated 3% increase. And as part of my position, I'm going to be looking at reviewing existing contracts, payment for services, and seeing as they come up, contracts come up for renewal, to review those and possibly rebid them or get newer quotations to ensure that we are getting the best value for our money in these services and contracts. So next year, when the janitorial service contract comes up for renewal, I expect that we will rebid that contract. But this is, I recommend that we sign the contract as presented at this time.
So I'll make a motion to accept the janitorial contract.
Second?
Reese,
Yes.
Eister,
Yes.
Karlovic,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Reichtner.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, Jody, while we're talking about contracts, I know, Kevin, we had discussed it last year about rebidding the contract for the auditor. Am I correct?
Yes, auditors, and also talked to Jody also about service electric too. Because that dropped again.
Okay. Well, find a copy of that agreement with Service Electric. In that agreement, we've already asked a year and a half, 2 years ago for an audit. We never respond back to us. Maybe we need a little legal counsel to straighten them out.
Okay?
Thank you.
Still you.
Okay, this has to do with a public emergency demolition of a structure that is in imminent danger of collapsing. This is the structure that is 245, 247 Penn Street. This structure was, the rear of this structure had been demolished last fall. It's been vacant since August of 2018, when it was declared unfit for human habitat. And so 2 weeks ago, around February 6th or 7th, we became aware that a portion of that roof soffit had fallen down into the street below. And so when we looked at it, we can see that the structure is bulging at the sides, and we're very afraid that it might collapse at any time. Of course, if pieces are falling off of it, anybody walking around. So we've cordoned off the area. That street had been blocked already before, and so we're going through the process of tearing it down. So what we've done so far, and what's pending, is the title search to make sure that there are, to see if there are any liens already against the property. It has been, the code official has declared it in imminent danger of collapse. I have coordinated with Jim Eister getting a quotation for the demolition, and also with Wayne Township for the removal of the debris. I've also been coordinating with the redevelopment authority and with the council, for both the redevelopment authority and with the city, to determine whose responsibility is it and whose money is going to take care of this. And what we have come up with is a plan whereby the city would front the cost of the demolition and debris removal, but that we can ask for reimbursement through the Housing Authority of Northumberland County. And there is a grant or a fund that they have available that they could then reimburse the city after we have put the money up front. It seems a pretty solid process, and we could do this as soon as, I've already called Pennsylvania One Call. We could do this no earlier than the 14th of February, no later than the 26th of February. So the total cost estimate is $8,500 for the demolition. And if we look at the removal of the debris, it's $64 per ton. That includes the trucking and the haulaway and the disposal fee. And if we estimate that the previous part of it was about 80 tons, we could say this is probably going to be 100 tons because it's bigger and has contents in it, so then we get to about $6,400. So we'll say $15,000 estimated total cost to tear it down and haul it away. There may be other fees in there I don't know about, that's my caveat.
Like I mentioned today, Jody, it's gonna be snowing, and the more snow and rain, water weight really runs that weight up.
Yeah.
So
And
maybe be concerned of.
yes.
So we might be 18, so just so you're aware of that. If you get a shocker from the weight,
Right,
we'll know right out of the gate though.
right,
First or second truck, you can tell how bad the weights are.
right. And so, but I think the you know, what we have there is the reimbursement from Northumberland County, so I think we're, as a city, as far as our budget goes, we'd be all right.
Sure on that reimbursement, on all
And
aspects.
how long does it
Yes.
take for that reimbursement?
I'm not sure, there is a package that we fill out, and I don't have a timeline, I can get back to you on that if necessary.
Back to,
Do you know offhand how long it took for the other reimbursement?
We never got a reimbursement for anything.
No, that was
That was
through
handled a
Redevelopment
different way.
but Pat Mack, which runs that, the funding source, he's aware of it, he's been on site back 9 months ago when we tore the other one down, I don't know the date, okay? And he knew this was coming, so it's no surprise, the county's aware of it. And I think within a reasonable amount of time, you'll receive the reimbursement.
Because right now, you know, we're poor. So, until March.
Right. Now, Kevin, that's a grant they received through the state,
Yep, I know.
okay? They have that in escrow somewhere,
Yep.
okay?
But,
I'm
you
not
know,
sure.
us up front, right off the bat, you know, in February, it's a tough chore to handle.
But we got into it in the backside because originally the redevelopment was gonna handle it, and it was passed off to us.
That's
2
why I
weeks
thought I
ago,
should have
something
thought
like
you was
that,
gonna
we
be
received.
handling.
So, she had pick up the speed and get things going here because it is falling down.
Because of the urgency, because
Is
we have
there-
really a high risk of liability if something should fall down on a person or other
So
property.
redevelopment had no money whatsoever, they opposite this,
We had money set aside, but it was through the grant block money and,
yeah, no, that's exactly.
okay.
Yeah, no.
And so there are restrictions.
It's a long procedure to do, either do a study on and so forth,
Okay,
okay?
Make a long story short, I told them they better tear it down.
oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Somebody's gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
And that bottom line is that the financial aspects have to be considered, but we can't have a little kid in there getting hurt or somebody
I agree, Joe.
else. So that was my initial call to say, I think, no matter what, we gotta take the thing down and make it safe.
And I've gone through the International Property Maintenance Code, and we are well within in the code as far as declaring the imminent danger, and we're following the process that's here and in our code, city code.
Then I make this into a motion to continue this process to tear down this public danger.
Second,
Reichner,
yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Eister,
Yes.
Karlovic,
Yes.
Kramer.
I got one more. Considering the state of the police department building there on Market Street, and we want to attract qualified and quality police officers and retain them, I think it's imperative that we move forward on finding a solution for the police department building. There may be some property available that we can continue to look at. I have the reports from previous years. I have some of the drawings that had been drawn up from the previous committee. I would like to reestablish a police department building committee and move forward in the process of finding a solution for the police department in the very near future. I'm hoping that we can actually come up with a plan within 60 days.
We'll make that into a motion to reestablish.
I'll second
It won't be exactly the same because I'm not sure all the same people are available. So a committee, using some of the same people. if
And then
they're available.
we'll have you oversee the committee.
Yes.
All right, I'll make a motion to reestablish the police department building committee with Ms. Ock overseeing it.
I'll second
Eister,
Yes.
Karlovic,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Reichner,
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
All right, Councilwoman Kramer, approval to pay invoices.
We have $120,221.92 in general fund and $108,251 in liquid fuels. I'd like to make a motion that we pay these bills.
Karlovic,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Reichner,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Eister.
Yes.
Tax exoneration.
We have 6 people on the list, 5 of them are deceased. I'd like to make a motion that we exonerate all these back taxes.
Second.
Kramer,
Yes.
Reichner,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Eister,
Yes.
Karlovic.
Yes. Councilman Reese, secrets?
Yeah, so I was approached, actually, you weren't the first person to approach me, multiple business owners on Market have reached out about cigarette butts being disposed along Market Street. And it's pretty disgusting in some of the spots as you drive down. So basically, I wanted to give it up, and I'm sure they'll have an opportunity to speak when we get to that part of it, but just to kind of start thinking of what we can do to combat that. Where if it's just a police monitoring littering, if it's something that, prohibits people from throwing with a fine attached for that only, and I don't know what we already have in place, so I just wanted to bring it up as kind of a starter of the conversation, because I know we've done some downtown cleanups, and every time we've done them, that's all we spend most of our time picking up is cigarette butts. And in the summer months, if they're flicking them into the streets, they'll go up in the sweeper. But that's once a week, and it's also not from November to April. So if you walk down certain parts of Market Street, you see a lot of them. So I don't know again, it's kind of start that conversation of what's already in place for that, and see if we can do anything else. But it's something that I want to definitely start looking into, and if anybody on council already has an idea or has come across something that we already are doing that we could do better, we could just work towards that, because it's definitely pretty disgusting on that.
There's one real bad area, which.
Yeah.
I don't know, because littering is about, one thing I know it's on the books, but by the same time, our officers don't have time to be down there watching that. I don't,
Agree.
Joel, my car, meter person.
I just wrote down the name of our meter person. Yeah, I think we could probably give him the authority to not make arrests, but hand out citations on that issue, as well as quite possibly, I know code is busy as the police department is probably, but if they would run across it while they're out, the police obviously have the ability, but if we could extend that ability to the meter person and the code office, I think that would help certainly, because the meter person's obviously on the street. The other thing I would suggest probably, and here again, it's probably not my place to suggest this, but I'm gonna anyway. If we could put out some receptacles in those places that we know are problem areas, it may go a long way towards alleviating the need to cite people, which is also gonna cost us more money. So if we could come up with some kind of receptacles that can't be removed, I don't know if they have to be cement or whatever they have to be, or cemented in order to cut that down and give the people that are out there an option. That's another suggestion I have, but I agree with what you're saying.
Well, I know they make trash receptacles, which we have, which mount onto the meter
Right.
post.
Right.
They may make one for that, I don't know.
Something. So, just bring it up to start.
It's definitely an issue.
Councilman Reichner?
We've been discussing this for probably a year and a half with the fire department. There's 5 fire chiefs, and they're having problems filling it. I got a letter from Chief Brown at the end of 2018, that's to notify us that officially the Sunbury Fire Department has made a change to their constitution and bylaws in regard to the number of chief positions. At the March 2018 department meeting, the department voted to eliminate a chief position so that there would only be a total of 4 chiefs. This was done in accordance with the Constitution and bylaws, which required the agreements with the majority of the department companies. There was actually a unanimous agreement among the companies to the elimination of the chief position. We are planning to use the city's stipend money allocated for the elimination of the chief position to cover the added cost of implementing tablet devices for the chief staff. These devices have become essential as part of the state's mandate that the department reports all of its responses promptly to the Pennsylvania Fire Information Reporting System. As always, we appreciate your help in assisting and protecting our citizens in this greatest time of need. Basically, what they're asking us is the stipend that was given to the chief that they're no longer going to use, that we just send it to the department and they in turn will use it to pay for the monthly rentals of the iPads that the chiefs have for their information while they're on site at fires and stuff. I don't know if we want to go through with this, we want to research a little bit, or if we will make a motion tonight and go through with it, but we've been discussing this probably since March of last year, off and on.
How much is the payment?
I don't exactly know what it is, but it's like $100 and some every 3 months. And I think it's basically a wash. Pardon?
It's very minor,
Yeah,
in the grand scheme of things.
yeah, it's basically it'll pay the
$200
$40,
a year.
pay for the $40 for their rental fees of the iPads that they got. And it's basically gonna be a wash. We're not gonna change, we're not gonna give them any more money. We're just gonna, it's gonna be, instead of given to a chief, it's gonna be paid to the fire department. And they're gonna earmark it for that and strictly for that.
It was $50 a month, and I think that would basically help pay for the gas. So, yeah, it's $150 every 3 months.
Yeah.
Chief gets a little bit more, because he goes on
Yeah,
payroll.
right.
For a motion?
I'll make a form of a motion.
I'll second
Karlovic,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Reichtner,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Ister.
that. Yes.
All right, Ms. Ocker for the letter.
So I already talked about the solicitation employee policy, right? Did it in the wrong place, but here we are. Okay, so announcements. Sunbury sucks. So, apparently, how long have we been getting these letters?
Numerous times throughout the summer.
Okay, so, this is my first one. So, basically, there is, a person may or may be in this room, I don't know, some anonymous person sends letters that are addressed to the mayor of the city of Sunbury, and their salutation is, Sunbury sucks, and then they sign it, Sunbury sucks. And in between those two, they have some issue that they would like the mayor to deal with, they have a complaint. And so, I think there are better ways to voice your complaints, but you know what, you gotta meet people where they are. And so instead of, it doesn't mean that what's in the letter is not worth our time to see what the issue is. So, first of all, I will take what this person is complaining about. In this case, it has to do with the parking on Market Street, the big trucks and SUVs having to put the, one tire up on the curb, impeding pedestrian, just, damaging to the curbs, etc. So I'll look into that. But I would invite whoever is Sunbury sucks, that they may make an appointment with me, they may come in and see me, talk to me, tell me, give me the whole laundry list of the things that are annoying them to death, and let me take them on. Let me, make the list, work on them one by one, see what we can do. I would like to change the perception of Sunbury as a place that is, down and that people would say such a thing about. And I'm just gonna start addressing it this way. So I invite Sunbury Sucks to come see me, and I'd be happy to, even buy a cup of coffee. And hopefully we can come to some resolution on some of these complaints.
All right, thank you. And your office hours, if you want to go into that.
So that leads me right into my office hours. I have established, and there's a sign on my door, I have walk-in hours for the public. They can just walk in, first come, first served, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. with the caveat that those hours may change without notice depending on if I'm called away to some other meeting or something else that takes priority. And then also Tuesdays and Thursdays, 2 to 4 p.m. So I got morning hours and I've got afternoon hours. And then also, people can call the main administrative number, 570-286-7820, to make an appointment with me. And so Jolynn has access to my calendar, and any spot on that calendar that's open, she is free to plug somebody in there. My goal is to be accessible as much as I can. It doesn't, problems that you hide from are not gonna go away. So if you're bringing me a problem, bring me a Diet Coke, and we'll talk about it.
The next semi-quincentennial 250th anniversary committee meeting is February 20th at 6 p.m. in the council chambers. If anybody wants to come, you're invited. And our next city council meeting is February 25th, 2019 at 6:15 p.m. At this time, is there any audience comment? Please approach the podium.
Cindy Lloyd. Okay. So I wanted to make a comment about the cigarette thing you're talking about. I do know that they have, I looked at this website before and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but you could only apply for grants if you were like a city, but you can apply for grants for trash cans that have ashtrays, on the top of them, which I'm sure everybody has seen before. And you can also apply for recyclable bins too.
Yes.
Which would be super nice to have in park or around town, because we're one of the only places that I know around here that don't have any place to put your recyclables in, like in the park. And I do know that they are super expensive, because I looked at the price of them, and they're like $800 for a trash can. So anyway, on the website that they do have, like, you can apply for grants, and I wish I knew it off the top of my head to be more helpful, but, what?
If you run across it, get it to me, would you please?
Yeah, I have it saved, I have it bookmarked on my computer, because before I was gonna bring it up, and then I just never did, and that just reminded me, because I just thought that would be really nice. I had a question for Chris Reese about, I did go in and ask, wasn't planning on asking you here, but now's as good a time of any. If I wanted to use the sidewalks on Market Street, just the sidewalks for the Arts and Curiosities Fest, do I need permission from you or the business owners that it would be near?
We have a permit, Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they did that a couple years ago because they wanted people putting stuff on sidewalks. And I
Yeah,
think
at one point in time, we had like a file.
for sidewalk sales permit.
Right, and then we took, well, actually, I'm sorry.
No, good, take it.
I couldn't answer me.
At one time, we were trying to promote the restaurants, putting tables and chairs out front, promoting the seating along Market Street. But if you want, it's the art show which you had last year, is that what you're referring to?
Yes. I mean, I didn't want to go crazy, but just maybe like 1 or 2 people out front.
Roads are gonna need, what, 5 foot walking path?
You need 5 foot, and they have to be removed at the end of the business day, of the business.
Okay, well, it would be removed at the end of
The show.
I would just check with them. Your business that you decide is the market house and they participate anyways,
Yes.
then the place isn't open.
I don't think-
Anyways.
I don't think.
What about Straw
here,
Alley?
but I don't think,
Or you wanna go down that far?
well, yeah, because he participates, so I don't think he would have an issue. Edwards usually isn't open. He's was pretty nice about it before, so, but just kind of like that. Yeah, so 5 feet, I would have to go measure that. just to
Well,
make sure.
again, you're using straw.
Yes,
We're not gonna be counting that because that's where the show is. That's not the issue.
yeah,
It's
no,
Market
that
Street
I already
itself.
have taken care of,
And
like,
just so you have
yeah,
somebody, so you can walk past, or if somebody has one of those jazzies, they can get past with a jazzy.
yes.
Okay?
Which makes sense. My third thing is that you guys were talking about New Year's Eve. I did, kind of mention it to a few people before, but, I started putting, into, like, it's already in motion, when we didn't have New Year's Eve celebration in Sunbury for 2 years, a semi-formal event that I'm going to be hosting at the Masonic Building on New Year's Eve.
That's perfect.
Yes, so that was obviously before, well, that started going into motion before I even knew that SRI wasn't gonna do it at all and, anymore. So, I just wanted to bring that up just in case anybody wanted to, maybe, tie it in, or if anyone wanted to talk to me about it,
I think what you wanna do is hook up with the mayor till he gets his
yeah,
committee
and I
together.
think I might have like mentioned that I had an idea about doing something, so I've already kind of set that into motion with getting the building and sound system and, like, you know, all those little things like that. But since that event would be at the park, I just thought it was worth mentioning.
You can have all the good food in there, we can stop and get one.
Well, this would probably be coming out of my pocket, so you, so I don't know if I'm gonna have, you know, food vendors and things, but, yeah, so anyway, that was the only comments that I wanted to make, so, and, so who, do I have to check in with somebody, or just the business owners, just to make that clear? Just business owners. Okay, all right,
They can decide what it
okay, thank you.
Any other audience comment tonight? Regina?
First, I would like to thank the code office. A couple of months ago, I had mentioned an elderly gentleman whose home was collapsing around him. And I understand that one of the neighbors made a telephone call last week. A code officer went there, I guess, to investigate how much more the home had become an emergency site. And I understand that the city found a grant to help this gentleman, so I would like to thank the code office and the officers for helping with that. I thought it went on deaf's ears, and it's nice to know that it didn't go on deaf's ears. Secondly, a couple of weeks ago, my alarms went off. I was a recipient of the Cedar Cog Rehabilitation for Housing, so the new smoke detectors and CO2 alarms, which are hardwired, were installed. I have probably 15, maybe more, and they all went off simultaneously, couldn't stop them. I had not gotten any training, no one had discussed with me how you can stop this or what would cause these things to go off. The fire department showed up, they were very thorough, and they gave me just a little maybe 2-minute training, but in order to disconnect or stop the alarms from going off, they had to shut it off from my circuit breakers. So hopefully, in the future, anyone getting those grants, it will be in whatever literature is provided, that it's given to those people so that they know what to do and handle a situation like this. It wasn't nice seeing 3 and 4 fire engines pop up in front of my house with an ambulance, and I'm now the neighborhood movie, you know, popcorn, everybody having their little social drinks. Also, one more question, please. When the city is exonerating taxes for people who are unable to pay or they no longer live in the city, is the mayor and council made aware of those people and how much it is before you vote on it?
Yes.
Yes, is the answer? Thank you.
And any other, please come to the podium. State your name.
Brenda Reichenbach. Thanks, Chris, for addressing the issue on the cigarette butts. Was just very upset because it just looks terrible in front of my shop. I have Tony's Tailor Shop. And also, speaking for the Jasmineer, he was upset as well. Our big concern is the people standing out there, and they don't move for our customers. It's disgusting. I have clothes in my shop, and the smoke just comes right in. I just really am not sure how to handle those people. I've already asked them to move, to not stand out there, and they totally ignore me. I understand that they all are renting from the Edison Hotel, and they just do not care. So it's really disheartening to see that we are trying as that block to keep the stores looking nice and everything else, and then the people just stand there. And I have customers that walk in and they have to go around these people because they won't move away from my doorway.
Jim,
And I've asked them.
years ago, right when we first came on council, we had that same problem in Mark Street. Like, remember the city supplied no loitering signs to put in the window of the business to keep them off, you know, by ordinance of the city of Sunbury. Remember we did that right when we came on back in 2007?
Brenda, I also see them around the corner on 4th Street, across there where Jesse's building is, there's like a little stoop there. He lined himself up in there to get out of the weather apparently, and that's what they're doing. I guess they're not allowed to smoke in the Edison, they smoke over there. Or alongside the Edison, there's a set of steps where they sit there, I see.
Yeah. It's
So I'm gonna
just,
try them signs again. I mean, I seem to work in the past, if I remember right, Jim.
Joel, can our ticket man handle what?
I don't know, I'll be honest with you, there's a little bit more, how should I say, danger in moving these people that we're talking about than there would be with the
Cigarette citation.
cigarette citation. I think the police ought to handle that, but I think they need to handle that. Is there a worse day, a worse time of day, is it all the same?
it's all the time.
All the time?
Yeah, they don't have a specific time because none of them work, so they're just there whenever.
It says 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, exactly.
What if, I think what we should do, you need to have a sign, okay? Because to enforce the ordinance, we need to have a sign up there that says no loitering, okay? At that point then, we gotta start having the officers we have move those people along and cite them if they come back. I mean, I think that's the only issue. I'd hesitate to send an unarmed, untrained person over there to move a big group of people.
Do you think we could take and send a letter to the Edison, ask if they can provide a smoking area to the rear of their property instead of being on Mark Street, 4th Street?
That's my business. Well, please don't do that, that's where my business is. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And somebody's house.
Yes, right.
It's right up into my apartment.
I'm sorry, I'll take that back.
Well, I've already addressed that.
It's only, maybe 6 or 7 of them. It's the same ones, 6 or 7 of them. And I strongly feel that if they were approached by a police officer and told, they would disperse somewhere else. I really feel that they would do that. But you know, the thing of it is where do you disperse them to?
Right.
Well, and that's the problem. They can go across the street on the.
They're right now,
They're gonna be right
I
there.
will tell you, they're at the dollar store, in
I know.
front of the
Yeah.
dollar store.
I know.
there too.
Yeah.
And I've already addressed this with the Edison, because it's, my understanding is they're given citations if they're in front of them, and now they're just shifting them down 2 stores. And it's, I mean, and I'm looking at the fact that it's gonna clog up the drains, because there's that much there, and we're gonna have issues. If it rains, now you have all those clogging up. And it just causes a problem. I had a gentleman come and put a new sign up for me from the Beaver Springs area, and he was standing there, and literally the people were standing there smoking, and he looked around and was like, oh my gosh, this is disgusting. He said, if I was interested in renting something over in this area, I wouldn't, because look at the streets.
I think what
And
we
I was
can,
like,
what I would suggest, and again, if I'm overstepping my bounds, tell me to shut up, guys. But my suggestion would be we immediately request of the police department, or more strongly suggest, that they need to start moving these folks along on a daily basis if necessary, and citing them after the first time, as long as you get a sign up. But the other, and I think they have them at Kohl's, quite honestly. But the other thing is, perhaps council till next meeting, and all of you can come up with a suggestion as to a smoking area, if you will. I don't know what else to call it, but they're gonna smoke somewhere.
Yeah,
We might as well
they need
give
a
them a spot.
designated area.
You know what I mean? Yeah, they need a designated area, and it's gotta be somewhere that they can walk to, and it's gotta be somewhere that doesn't impede other businesses. So I can't think of that off the top of my head, but, it's one of those things.
I got a question. I don't know if I heard you right away. You said they got a citation for standing in front of the Edison.
The Edison is planning, or whatever, they're gonna give citations for anyone
Okay.
of their residents that are smoking.
And even in front of your buildings?
No, we're responsible, I talked to Megan, and she said we're responsible for our end, she's taking care of her end. So it's just
She's taking her tenants to smoke in front of her place, move them down in front of your place.
Absolutely.
You have to realize that it's not the Edison Hotel. Brian Pope now owns the Edison Restaurant, so it's 1337 Holdings.
That's right.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
not the
it's not.
Edison. Let's get that straight, because Brian's trying to do a good thing there, and it's not his fault.
Right, exactly,
So,
exactly.
it's 1337 Holdings.
Reynolds, not the
Yeah. Would there be, and this is just a slight suggestion, would there be anything that could be, a ordinance to say at business hours that they can't have that section, or sections of market, non-smoking?
It'd be tough, because
Okay.
the problem is notice. Because if you get somebody coming from, I don't know, Millersburg, and drive up here to use your facility, they're not gonna know they're not allowed to smoke,
Right.
and then you got issues
Okay.
with that. That'd be tough to enforce, especially with 4 cops at this point, or 5.
Right.
But I think hopefully we can come up with a smoking area, enforce the no loitering, and get the problem taken care of in that.
If we have a smoking area, can we have no smoking signs in certain spots?
Property owners can.
Okay.
We can in our property,
She can put a sign that says no smoking in front of,
as long as, on her right of way, yeah.
sorry.
Well, there's a vacant lot on 4th Street. right around the corner, right behind, right before the taxpayer behind Jesse's building. There's no vacant lot, can't they stand there?
Oh, I know what you mean.
That's where the needle is.
What?
What if you have some, like, okay, you see what happens at the wall at the dollar store? And I don't know how many, like, how close are the parking spots immediately on the other side
The
of that
mayor was
wall?
just suggesting that to me.
I'm sorry.
No,
I didn't hear
no,
you.
nothing to be sorry about, you didn't know, but the point is, that's a good area to consider, I think.
Even if we put like a metal carport type of, not that that would be beautiful, but if you put something that's decent and put like a metal roof over there, they're covered from the weather, I get it, it doesn't, but it's kind of hidden by that wall and the shrubs. It still gives them cover from the weather. You can put the receptacles that will kind of keep the butts tidy, so I feel like it was worth taking 2 parking spots away from that area to try and concentrate the
But
problem.
Amy, I don't think it's the taxpayer's responsibility to make a smoking place for residents that live in that building.
I don't know that it's the taxpayer's responsibility to do so either, but as a community, I feel like that if we can better the overall appearance, then maybe that's something that I'm willing to take on. I'm not standing in front of the business and throwing my cigarettes into the street, but I would prefer a few of my tax dollars going to ensure that somebody else isn't either.
But it's
So that when we're trying to take care of the properties and fill vacancies downtown as a real estate agent, do I feel it fair? Not necessarily, but do I see the overall good of the order? Absolutely.
See,
You know what too, Jimmy, is I
and
have.
hold on, Deb.
Go ahead.
And like our local amusement park, it's a smoke-free amusement park, there's smoking areas. I've been to different state parks, local parks, it's no smoking, they have a smoking area. Over the summertime, business owners, residents, even myself took notice, the Edison Plaza, the parking lot near the Dollar General on Market Street, it was collecting trash, there was piles of trash and a simple solution, talked with DPW, we put a trash can beside the wall. Now the trash, it's in the trash can. And I was just talking with Joel here, I think it would be smart just to put in, like we put in a red bench that we had in storage for the bus stop on Woodlawn Ave behind the Edison, but we can actually designate a smoking area. Give them, instead of complaining about everyone smoking, I used to be a smoker, so I understand people complaining, and now that I don't smoke, I complain about them. But let's give them a designated location. Here's your special red bench. Here's your cigarette receptacle, so you can put it in. It's a safe location for them.
Well, the dollar store has a bunch of them, like she said, put it behind you shouldn't be putting it behind their business, put it by the dollar. I see the dollar store employees coming out and smoking at the store. And to top it all off, my husband and I go down that street, and if we have friends that come in that aren't from town, the first thing they say is, it's a weekday, and all these people are standing around smoking. Hide them! Hide them behind, I don't wanna put any of our criminals or our
And I'm not talking.
deadbeats out in front of everybody to see.
I don't think it would cost us $1 million to create that solution either. I mean, I think that's a relatively inexpensive alternative to try and solve a bigger problem.
Would you like me
Oh,
to take
yes,
one?
because I'd rather take and build a bus stop for the little kids waiting for the bus and build something for smokers.
Well, I don't think we need to build anything.
Would you like
I
me
don't
to
think
take
that
it on?
anything needs to be built.
Yes,
Honestly.
we're gonna let the city administrator, Ms. Ocker, look into this and come back with a response to council.
I'd just like to say one thing. The deterrent's going to be citing them for loitering and littering. That's the deterrent. And
If I
that's
could,
what needs to be
Jody,
done.
Keep Pennsylvania Beautiful does a grant for this. It's called the Cigarette Litter Prevention Program. So that might be something that you want to look into. I think it goes towards receptacles. I just looked on their website, they had done a grant in Harrisburg to prevent cigarette
Brenda,
litter.
those pictures that you have, that you showed me, can you forward those to her in
I
case there's
can.
any documents that need to go?
Absolutely.
Thanks, Caleb. Can you
Sure.
send me the link?
Yeah,
Thanks.
sure.
Yeah, that's the website that I was,
Oh,
I
okay.
think that that's the same
All right,
website.
perfect.
All right, any other audience comment at this time?
I just have a quick question. I'm sorry I wasn't here in the beginning of
Please state your name.
Julie, Brosius, just to get the last name The cat, TNR issue that was just discussed tonight, it was passed, is that correct? Is it gonna be posted online so that you can see what was passed?
I would imagine it could be, yeah, I don't see a problem with that, but basically, like I said, I don't feel or not, all that it is that we're welcoming the SPCA and these people to come in. The SPCA will do 100 of them a year, and then, but they're going to return them to the close proximity where they trap them.
Is there gonna be a public meeting as well? To bring like, the public in so that they know what's going on, kind of thing? Because also PA Pets gets involved with that to help, TNR, and it helps with the cost. So that's something else that you could look at for another organization.
From the understanding I got from these people, there are donors there, and they're always welcome to donors.
Right.
But again, the only thing the city is doing is saying that we're okay with it. We have nothing in it at all, other than saying we're okay with it.
Right. But what I'm offering to you is the person that's very active in the PA Pets. Her husband was a doctor at Geisinger, and she's a real estate person, and she's very well known, and she's very active in that kind of thing, because as everyone knows, the kitty's cute when it's little, but then it gets kicked to the curb. So she would, she'd be willing to come to a public meeting to offer you information as well.
Eric did ask me to reserve the downstairs council room if it got passed for the beginning of April. I don't remember the exact date right now, so.
Okay, yeah, because I was kind of looking to see if he was here, because he called me because I had questions about it. And Jim, the Reagan Street project is underway?
No,
Not physically, but it's in the
well,
works.
it's in the works. We have around $1 million allocated, and we're waiting for 2 funding sources this month. We should know by the end of February. We applied for $1.5 million, another grant.
Okay.
And we're hoping to catch one of those. Estimated cost of 1.9, estimated cost. So we're hoping, and if the way it looks, if we wouldn't get one of those 2 grants, we're still going to take, and our goal would be to come from front at least to Reagan Phase 1. We'll just downsize and phase it that way. PennDOT's on board, municipal authorities working, Chris is on board with help me out, Chris, liquid fuels money in there.
Well, we shouldn't even have to use too much of it, if we catch everything.
We'll catch everything, that's true. Then once we run from there all the way to 4th and do that intersection there, and our next move would be Susquehanna Avenue.
Okay.
Running a lateral up.
Because since I had the ability to work at home, I thought I seen what our surveyors coming in.
Surveyors there for
avenues.
weeks, yes.
And it's going to be a blessing, because you may not know, since you're new, you may not know, but I get water 10 feet from my back door that I cannot utilize my garage. And so I have items from my garage on my back porch, and I should not have to do that.
But just remember, this isn't today or tomorrow.
I understand that.
This is probably at least a 5 to 8 year project. I mean, we're talking $10 million to do the whole
Oh, I've
137
had
acres.
discussions with Danny, I know,
Okay.
not you. Grammar, so, yeah.
But yes, I mean, just so you understand,
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
Let's
the
start
first
somewhere.
phase won't cure your problem.
It will to a point, because the city's on a pitch.
Yeah, well, I mean, as you go down Susquehanna, that's when you start to see more of the, your property here.
Right. And my last question, since I haven't been here to bother y'all, you weren't here the last time when I posed this question, and this is kind of old business, but you had a discussion with Dave Bowman about the cameras. So where is that little, what's
Where is
going
what?
on there?
What do you want to know?
Well, tell us. You had the discussion with him. Are we going to be on the hook for the cameras? Is there an investigation?
I'll tell you I can tell you exactly what I told him. Damn things don't work.
Yeah, we know.
And,
We've known that for a long time.
well, here's the thing, I wasn't here when that problem was
I
created.
understand that.
But all I did was, I passed it along to the federal government to do a full investigation.
Okay.
I have heard back from them once that they were proceeding with an investigation. I have not heard back from them since. I am not in contact with a specific person. It was what I would consider to be a lower level person that I had talked to. But they did say that they were already aware of it. They had already done one investigation, but I was giving them new information that they did not before have.
Okay.
And therefore, they were willing to look at it again.
Okay.
As far as being on the hook, we're on the hook. I mean, there's no getting around it. And that's what, with Mr. Bowman, I think I can say that I'm not a pull that punches kind of guy. So I gave it to him straight. He asked me questions, I answered. And that's what I would do with you.
Joel, when you say on the hook, this might be winning money.
No.
It's for the maintenance in the future.
The maintenance in the
Yes,
future and
yes.
getting dang things up and running.
Right.
And, you know, depending what comes out, and I can tell you this, depending what comes out of the investigation by the federal government, there may be ways that we can recoup some money in order to get the things up and running, okay? I can't promise you that, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I am certainly hopeful that either through the criminal justice process or through civil litigation following the criminal justice process, we could recoup some of the funds necessary to put them back online.
Okay. All right. Good enough. Thank you. Appreciate it. That's all.
Any other audience comment tonight? All right, with that, thank you all for coming out tonight. The next council meeting is February 25th at 6:15 p.m. This meeting's adjourned.